Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the stage Mitzi Mead and Jonathan Album.
Hi. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Now that we've got those chairs rearranged for the third time, we're all set to go. So at this time, I want to take the time to offer our thanks to the MOC Planning Committee, and I do want to say a special shout out to Lionel Cares, whose name we forgot on the program. Lionel, are you back there? We're very sorry, because Lionel was a big help to us, so I just want to point that out. But we want to offer our thanks to the MOC Planning Committee, the communities of interest, and the Innovator Circle for their hard work on the programs. They've spent the past few months identifying, developing, and preparing the sessions you're about to participate in a little bit later this morning. But before we get started, I want to briefly go over the press policy for this year's Management of Change. So every session is open on the record and for attribution except for the CXO breakfast, which it's open to the press but not for attribution. And then the government-to-government session tomorrow afternoon is closed to the press. Now I want to take the time, a very important time, to recognize our sponsors for this year's Management of Change. Without the sponsors, we would not be able to do this and many other events. So we want to start off by thanking our diamond sponsor, CenturyLink. Our Gigabyte sponsors, which are Booz Allen Hamilton, Dell EMC, DXC Technology, General Dynamics Information Technology, and OnPoint. Our platinum sponsors are Accenture Federal Services, Capgemini, Ernst & Young, Leidos, and NIC. Our megabyte sponsors are CSRA, Hughes, and SAIC. Our gold sponsors are AvePoint, Bloomberg Government, Box, Brocade, CDWG, Dev Technology Group, Evolver, Genesis, GovPlace, Noblus, and Saudi Solution Services. Our silver sponsors are ByLight, Carson Solutions, Leapfrog, Sapient Government Services, TrustWave Government Solutions, and Veeam. Our media partners are Defense Systems, FCW, GCN, Government Executive Media Group, Government Matters, Meritalk, and Washington Technology. So we had about 40 golfers yesterday. Where are our golfers? Okay, did you guys have a good time? And we're glad you golfed yesterday, not today. So we want to give a special thank you to our golf title sponsors for helping make it a great day for our golfers yesterday. And those are CenturyLink, Booz Allen Hamilton, Dell EMC, DXC Technology, General Dynamics Information Technology, and OnPoint. And then our a la carte sponsors, OPM HR Solutions, and Management Concepts.
All right, and then how about Josh Linkler's keynote last night?
Great.
I thought that was really great. Many of you come up to me and shared your thoughts on his comments, and I'll make sure those get back to Josh, that everyone enjoyed his speech and got us all thinking. So thanks very much. So this year's conference focuses on bridging government and business, focusing on how government and industry can work together and share innovative ideas to make government more effective and efficient. And our sessions today are all located on this level of the hotel. We don't have tracks this year, but individual sessions designed to give you insight and allow you to collaborate with one another. So take a look at the screens for the sessions being held in the various rooms. You'll also find a listing of the descriptions, the speakers, and the objectives for each in the mobile app or conference program. So here's the list for Chop Tank A. And here's Chop Tank B, Chop Tank C, Chop Tank E and F. Go Chop Tank EF.
That's right. And as we mentioned yesterday, we encourage all of you to be active in the MOC app to share what you're learning through the conference. We look forward to seeing your pictures, comments, and insights on the app. If you're tweeting, don't forget that we are using hashtag MOC17 as the hashtag.
All right, so let's get started with this morning's program. It's now my pleasure to introduce to the stage panelists for this morning's plenary. I want to begin by welcoming Margie Graves, Joe Klimovitz, and Kevin Cook. Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
All right, so thank you guys for all being here today. We really appreciate it. I know everyone is looking forward to hearing about priorities and watching us sit in these chairs.
I know.
It's quite the drama. If you remember the video last night from Government Matters, there was clips from over the first 4 months of this administration, and so many different things have happened in that short period of time. And they've really affected the way we as agencies, CIOs, think about IT and the government and what we're trying to do in support of this administration. And this morning we want to just talk about some of our priorities and how some of those big things we saw last night are affecting our work. I want to start with cybersecurity and have Margie share a little bit about her perspective on the recently signed cybersecurity executive order. It changes a lot.
So we're really pleased that the cybersecurity executive order has been signed and is out there for consumption now. We are on a fast track 90-day sprint, as you might call it, to actually get the risk management plans in. And that's what this cybersecurity EO is all about. It's about risk management. It's about defining your environment, understanding where your challenges are, and everybody's environment will be a little bit different. So you're going to look at the common threat vectors that you normally face, and you're going to look at what you have in terms of solutions in place, and you're going to do that gap analysis and bring that forward in your risk management plan. Then ultimately, we're going to tie that back to the NIST framework and the maturity model that is resident within the NIST framework. And then the final piece of the equation, and this is very important, and you saw it front and center in the EO, is we're going to tie that back to the budget, because none of this gets done without the appropriate resourcing. So the expectation that that flows all the way through to the dollars that you're going to assign to the gaps that you identify, and then bring that forward as your proposal for how you will actually address the issues. Now, of course, all of that gets put into the hopper along the entire spectrum of the agencies that exist within the federal government, and we're not going to be able to do it all individually. So one of the things that we're going to be able to do at OMB is look across the spectrum of things that come into us in those risk management plans and identify common challenges, common solutions, and common approaches. And if we can do that, we can probably leverage our dollars, scarce as they are in this environment, in a much better fashion.
Thanks, Margie. To Joe, what do you think are some common challenges that you see across your agencies at DOJ?
Sure. At a macro level, our strategy is basically to minimize vulnerabilities, protect our high-value assets, so put a lot of effort, additional emphasis on that, real-time detection, response, and then rapid analysis and forensics. So that at a macro level, that's our cyber strategy. We have a in Department of Justice, we have a very sophisticated scoring algorithm that actually goes through and scores every component. We have 43 components in justice and 22 component CIOs, and they get a new score every month in terms of how well they're doing on cyber. I'd be glad to share that algorithm with any other government agency. We actually put that out there, and it's become very, very competitive. Nobody wants to be at the bottom of the list. They're actually, it's fantastic at transparency and visibility. But we've implemented a lot of new tools, but we've got a long ways to go still in terms of being where we want to be. I think when you look at all these new tools, how do you manage across all the information coming into your security operations? How do you automate all that in terms of response? We just don't have enough staff, especially in cyber, to be able to look at all those different screens, all the information. So we need more technology in that area. Micro virtualization, isolating the applications from the operating system so that if something does go wrong, how do you minimize the amount of damage anything can do? Micro segmentation, again, segmenting our systems to reduce data loss, because in the end, it's more about the information than anything else, trying to protect that. We have a lot of systems with passwords, PIV implementation. To me, that's nice, but that's not the future. The future is probably more biometrics. So I'm always looking for what are how can we go to the next level of authentication, access control, and I think it's some form of biometrics and passwords and PIV are something that we got to do now, but down the road, I'm looking for something better. And the last thing is probably, insider threat. How do you prevent somebody from either going in there and on the inside and messing with your systems, exfiltrating data through a variety of means, or just even changing the data? I call it data poisoning, but that's something that's really hard. We've got a lot of perimeter defense if somebody tries to send something out, but what happens is somebody just goes in there and changes a couple of tables in your databases, and it can really mess up things. So those are some of our key challenges.
So the Cybersecurity Executive Order puts the head of the agency as responsible for cybersecurity in that agency. And Kevin, I'm wondering how you can use that, where the Secretary of HUD has this responsibility now for protection of HUD data. How do you use that to improve cybersecurity in your organization?
So you probably begin that conversation with talking about it from a data perspective, which is something that we focus on a lot. So Joe talked about a lot of the technical things and the tools. And so what we looked at starting a couple years ago is the NIST guidance and doing a full assessment of our cybersecurity program, not just looking at the tools and the people that we have, but also a lot of the processes with some of the folks out in the field. We have a lot of community partners that access our systems, including the mortgage systems, housing systems, and so there's a lot of concern about protection of data. And so that's where we've begun the conversation with our new secretary, just making sure that he's aware of the wide use of the data that we have. And so after completing sort of a full assessment and starting with an implementation guide, all again based on the NIST framework, and so then we began this process of updating our tools. So we had a lot of things that we were using for business continuity and looking at applications from a monitoring perspective in terms of health, but not always focused on security at all levels. And so now the approach is to not just sort of layer security on top, but looking at everything that we build from beginning to end from a security perspective in terms of the network and the tools, especially again, focusing on the data and how it's used. And so that's been pretty successful so far. We've got some new things going, recently implemented Splunk and some other new monitoring tools that are giving us more data than we ever had before in terms of being able to look at those things. So that's sort of the path that we'll continue on, is making sure that we educate the community partners who use our data as well as the programs and this new approach to security, or I should say revived.
Great.
So.
So the order also speaks a lot to modernization and requires agencies to begin and continue to modernize systems and remain current. So we have that aspect of modernization in the Cyber Executive Order. We also have the Office of American Innovation. We have the American American Council for Technology, not American Technology Council. We already have that one. In addition, we have the Modernizing Government Technology Bill that was just passed by the House. So there's a lot of acronyms in there, but also a lot of opportunity. And Margie, can you help us understand how those pieces fit together and where they add value to each other?
Well, one of the things that I wanted to emphasize this morning in speaking to you is the fact that these two things are inextricably intertwined. And what I mean by that is when we're looking at buying down our cyber risk, modernization is one of the approaches that we're going to take to do that. And when you're looking at your portfolio of systems, one of the driving factors and the criteria by which we would actually choose business cases that would be funded by the funding that is going to be supplied in the Management Act, provided that it passes the Senate also, is the fact that you have cyber risk. There are other things too. There's operational risk. There's inability to actually meet mission in an effective manner. And those will all be part of the consideration of the criteria that we're going to utilize also. But cyber risk is front and center for obvious reasons. I feel like for the first time in a long time that the stars are somewhat aligning in the sense of being able to bring forward the appropriate funding mechanisms and the appropriate acquisition approaches. We've been doing a lot in the agile acquisition field. You'll hear about that more in one of the sessions today. My expectation is that we're going to be able to pull together the board, which is going to be heavily influenced by the Office of American Innovation as to what particular opportunities they'd like to pursue. We're going to be able to pull together the board once the Management Act is passed and once there's money in the coffers, and drive it like we would a venture capital board or like a grants management board. Any of the things that you would normally see that those kinds of boards would do in terms of activities, that's what this board is going to do. And it's going to have professionals on it that are from all disciplines, not just the technology areas, so there will be some heavy emphasis on true technology architecture. One of the things that we're looking at, and it resonates because Josh was talking about it last night, is turning things on its, what did he call it, the judo flip?
The judo flip.
The judo flip, turning it on its ear, whatever you want to call it. The things that we've had in place that were right for the time, like certain TIC architectures and perimeter defense and things that we have that we are very familiar with today. What if we changed the architecture and we worked at the data layer and we use internet as transport? What if we do some of the things that are available today in terms of technology and actually save cost while we're doing it? Because perimeter defense, we all know, because we've been doing it for several years, is extraordinarily expensive, and a lot of times it's hardware-based. If we can make things more software-based and look at the opportunities in that arena, then we might be able to change that paradigm and do more with less. That's the kind of innovation that we're looking for.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's been a lot of conversation so far with the new administration just about thinking differently and questioning. Well, okay, you've always done it a certain way. We want to see if you could do it another way. And it seems like they're really ready to put in the work to do the change. So it's very, very encouraging. Joe, I'm curious from a DOJ perspective, what do you see as your big modernization initiatives over the next couple of years, and how do you think these different government-wide initiatives around the American Technology Council or American Council for Technology and the Management Act and things like that can help you?
Sure. Well, first off, I'm very excited that we're seeing all this attention and bipartisan support for modernizing our IT infrastructure. It's so important from a cyber perspective, and look, in Department of Justice, not unlike other departments, 80% of our IT budget goes to just keeping the lights on. We're really trying to stress how do we modernize. It's very important. But I think also as we look to modernize, one of the things I'm trying to do is reduce the complexity. It's very important for reducing the overall long-term cost of these systems. We've been trying to focus on determine the true cost of the systems, building consumption-based pricing models, pushing ELAs and strategic sourcing, using commercial cloud to the maximum extent, and reducing the overall footprint and staffing levels. I've been on other panels where I've talked about the number of data centers we've closed, but it's something we're continuing to push. About a dozen to 15 a year, and we had 110 in 2010. We're down to like 33 data centers now that we still need to close, but that's huge. And probably our largest data center, about 100,000 square feet, we're going to close in March of next year, and that represents a huge opportunities for not only saving money, but also modernizing at the same time. We are going to more modern systems. But look, overall strategy, reducing complexity, moving to shared and managed services, moving to commercial cloud, standardizing processes. We have a lot of mission capabilities that are underway right now, and one of my big focus is make sure that those deliver on schedule and get the intended outcomes. From a Department of Justice perspective, we have a lot of resources focused on litigation support. Today I would characterize that as a very labor-intensive process, preparing to go to court and trials and so on. And I want to try to see what kind of technology we can bring to that. We've been doing that for the last 2 years, but I think the future will bring even more technology, especially around data analytics. We were moving, let's see, 2014 went from 23 email systems to 9. Right now we're converging all of our email systems to one cloud-based email for the entire department, and that's huge, but we're going to continue pushing on that. Data center, not only consolidation, but optimization. How do we move to a better technology? Taking advantage of the network's DIS transition to build even a more consolidated, holistic network out there. We're implementing a security stack for getting to the cloud, so we have, for all of our unclassified data, we've got one way of getting very securely without creating an unnecessary bottleneck to the cloud. We're trying to modernize all of our end user productivity suites, mobile devices, desktops, laptops. We're now almost, probably 80–85% laptops, and that wasn't the case a couple of years ago. So huge push on this stuff, and I think a lot more of taking advantage of cloud solutions in a most secure manner.
Thanks, Joe. Kevin, modernization at HUD.
Sure. So first I'll say we're really excited about this. And I've talked personally with Margie about it in terms of sort of our excitement. This is something we've been preparing for a long time, starting looking at our portfolio and dividing that into sort of a segment approach based on the functions that our systems and services perform versus looking at it from a programmatic standpoint, and then going through the capital planning process and looking at ranking factors, including whether it satisfies an enterprise need, is it a security issue or vulnerability that we're solving, looking at our audit findings, legislative changes, et cetera. And so we feel pretty prepared in order to do this. And what we've done is sort of slice our needs up in both ways. One, from a legacy system perspective, including looking at old COBOL-based systems that are on the mainframe, as well as all of the security vulnerabilities that we discovered during our assessment. And so we've sliced and diced that a couple of different ways. So looking forward to the criteria in terms of, and the process, in terms of exactly how that'll be done. Like Joe said, most of the funding that we have is devoted to O&M. And so we're spending about 15–18% of our budget on new things. And so what we've been able to invest in, sort of at a small scale and sort of slowly, is looking at new tools like around agile development, looking at our CI/CD services, architectural design services, a lot of things that would prepare us in order to act very quickly as priorities come, and have sort of a foundational base in order to address those. So that's been pretty exciting. Got a few projects that have come through that process, including a new loan review system for all loans coming through the FHA process was recently done.
Do you see some benefits of maybe moving to some shared services across government?
So we've looked at that. So as you may know, we've got a couple of services that we've already done. So all of our financial services already. So that enabled us to greatly reduce the financial management systems footprint at HUD. And so now we're working with Treasury on that, and the same on as far as the HR systems. So both of those are looked at. We continue to maximize the grant services that are out there, and we're looking to increase that even more. If there are other services around, we'd attack that. I want to give a big shout out to NASA. We've migrated down to their data center down at Stennis, so that's another government shared service in which we engage. So at a smaller agency now, so it allows us to sort of focus on those things.
It really helps you focus, I think.
Absolutely.
Focus on your mission, on your data, as you were describing before.
So we want to stick with our core mission and sort of look at what we can outsource and move towards those services.
So shared services were a big deal in the last administration. We expect them to be a big deal in this administration. Margie, can you talk a little bit about what you think the future of shared services?
Well, one of the things about shared services that we have to make sure that we do is we're going to adopt this on a scale that we've never done before, in my opinion. And therefore, we have to actually send a demand signal to the market. Those of you in industry have often come to us and said, well, we're at the ready. We just need to see what kind of real handshake that we're going to have on the other side from the federal government. And the handshake requires the preparation that we need to do internally within the federal government to set standards, to unify processes, to be able to get to a point where we as an entirety of the federal government can actually adopt and make best use of shared services. There are a lot of things that will get done in a manner that is different from the common process, but there's always a core, and that core can usually give you the 80% rule. So for us to be able to be good customers, to be able to understand what it means to be cloud ready, understand that all your applications aren't necessarily prepared for the cloud, and that you need to do some kind of unwinding and I guess segmenting of your particular portfolio to make sure that we can adopt the different microservices that are coming out of the private sector, and you can just peel those off of your previously integrated systems and use them as a service and still reach back into your primary data that is behind your own firewall. So those things can be done. We just have to be conscious of the way that they can be done, and we as the government have to be a better customer. I know that Joe is actually our lead on the CIO Council. He's our liaison to the USSM, which actually drives the adoption of shared services. So I'd like to have Joe speak a little bit about what we're doing within the council to make that better.
Sure. Thanks, Margie. I've been a huge supporter and pusher, proponent of shared services in the government because I think it represents our future. It's how we should be doing business, and there's a lot of challenges around that, but I think we're making progress, and I think, as you said, we're going to be going really into the shared services in the coming years. Let me just kind of set the framework. There's a Shared Services Governance Board, and this is the primary executive board for developing shared services policies. It's cross-agency, multidisciplinary, so you got all your CXOs from across the government there looking to identify and how best to pursue opportunities for shared services. And so I sit on this board from an IT perspective. But then kind of the operational arm of that is the Unified Shared Services Management Office within GSA. And this was established by OMB in October 2015. And again, there's a lot of information on the internet, but they're developing a common federal strategy for shared services and providing leadership and really trying to drive the investment in shared services. So this is key. Look, I think everybody in industry understands that shared services is a best practice. There's a lot of challenges around that. We're breaking these down kind of one by one. But some of the main priorities of the USSM is focus on common administrative functions, service areas like financial management, HR, IT, grants management, travel. These are common services performed in every agency, and do we all need our own system? And in large departments, typically you may have several of these within one department. And again, do you need to have a lot of these? It comes at, I think, a tremendous cost, not only in financial terms, but also in terms of interoperability and collaboration and working together. We, through the USSM, put out an RFI this winter, and not to hit on all the points, but a couple of things that jumped out at me looking at your responses, things that I've heard many times over, but I think very, very consistent, is that we need government-wide standards. If we're going to build common solutions to common problems, we need to have agreement on this is what we need, and if you build this, it can satisfy most of the federal needs. And the other thing is kind of a guarantee. If you build it, if you make the investment up front, because that's kind of the premise of these cloud-based solutions, is you build it, you make the investment, is what kind of guarantees are the government's actually going to be there in mass so that you can actually return a profit on your investment. I think the next steps, going through all that stuff, is try to find a good set of requirements. That's one thing I've been working with the Federal CIO Council, is making sure we've got the IT requirements nailed down. But I think, looking forward, probably some RFPs coming out from GSA in this area addressing some of these needs. I don't know when, I don't know what form, but it'll be my guess. So I'll stop there.
Yeah, and I think that if you take a look back at what we've just talked about, cybersecurity, modernization, shared services, as a CIO, I look at those things as sort of levers I can pull as I help USDA move into the future. And all of that requires, there's a lot of change, right? For our employees and for our customers. And we have only a few minutes left, but can you each maybe speak for a bit about how industry can help you work through some of those changes, and as you think about the future, how do you work with your teams to be ready for all of this?
Well, I think one of the things that we can probably do better in a partnership is understanding that our ecosystems are now continuous, and there is no bright line between where my on-prem services start and your cloud services and your shared services begin. And it's all of our responsibilities to understand that we need to make that cyber secure. And in order to do that, we need to put contractual mechanisms in place that actually allow us to have visibility into that. So that creating of that trust model, the expectation that we have some kind of a joint responsibility and escalation procedure, and we work as a team, either to keep bad things out or when bad things happen to actually remediate. Those are the kinds of things that we're looking for in partners. On the shared services side, we have to get the standards right. We definitely have a big play there in coming to the market in the right posture, and we owe you that, because otherwise, why would you step out and invest and take that kind of a risk if you don't think you have the return on the other side? It is an ROI game. I understand that. We also understand that we are stronger together, and that we can actually make certain that these kinds of changes occur if we're all on the same page.
Joe, any thoughts about the role industry can play at DOJ helping you navigate into this future?
Sure. Well, I think certainly within DOJ, but I would say probably across the government, agencies are increasingly looking to partner with industry in terms of managed services or cloud solutions. But just when I say partner, I actually do mean that. But I think when I say the word partner, it's more than just a financial relationship. It's a reputation relationship that, if we can't deliver on expectations, that both reputations are impacted. So that's, I think that's something people are going to look for. The other is creative solutions, creative transformations. When I look to the cloud, I look at the cloud as a great aggregator of information along with compute, and really having the opportunity to fundamentally change the business of government, how the end user experience, and I'm looking for creative solutions on how best to do that. And I think the other thing is just helping make sure that if you're going to bid on things, make sure you can actually deliver with the staffing stuff. In our case, we require a lot of security around staffing and so on. It takes time. And one thing I'll just highlight is that if anybody from industry wants to work in the government, we've just posted another digital services, IT digital services position within Justice, IT fellow, 2 to 4 year term appointment. You're more than welcome to come on board and staff and help us see the opportunities to change and do better. So thank you.
And Kevin, you're fortunate enough to get the last word. How can you utilize these good folks in industry to help you navigate HUD through this interesting time?
So I think mostly about making sure we're having sort of clear communication, the government being clear on what our requirements are, and then on how industry can meet those requirements. And so when we're not clear, having enough conversations and questions around those to be very specific on what it is that we're looking at. Like Joe said, I think a lot about new ideas on how we're meeting sort of the continuing challenges, including security modernization, rationalization of applications, et cetera, and doing things in the most efficient way. So anything we can do sort of around partnering on those things and coming up with the right ideas that will address that, and again, sort of increasing our communication and partnership is what I look forward to.
Communication and partnership. I think that's a great way to end our plenary, and some good thoughts as we move forward to the rest of the conference. So with that, I want to thank Margie Graves, Joe Klimovitz, and Kevin Cook for their thoughts on FY17 and 18 priorities. Thank you. All right, so thank you guys. We're now ready to begin the workshop sessions. As you leave this room and turn to your right on this level, you'll find Chop Tank Ballrooms A, B, and C in Chesapeake, E, and F. Go Chesapeake, E, and F. After the first two sessions, we'll meet back here for lunch and a panel presentation on innovation in government and business. Thank you for joining us here today. We look forward to seeing you back here after lunch, and don't remember to use the MOC app to share your thoughts. Thank you.